As the conflict in Iran drags on, many newspapers around the world run headlines proclaiming the winner, China.
中国学术界、中国智库界、中国舆论界从来不会以中国是否是胜者或者败者的角度去思考中国在这次中东危机中的最终的结果或者角色，因为中国本身就不是这次中东危机的单事方，谈何有胜者或者败者的角色呢？如果未来长期处在一个相对低迷的状态呢，那么对中国经济来讲呢，肯定不是利好的消息。中国的经济发展的一个非常重要的国际目标呢，就是希望中国经济企业走出去，帮助各个国家尽可能的发展，创造更好的外部消费市场，进而解决中国巨大的产能和对外贸易的诉求。所以中国是某种层面上来讲，我们当然希望世界和平、稳定、发展、增长。
The idea that China's winning, nobody's winning, right? Obviously, I think the narcissism involved in that type of analysis is really quite shameful, really. I mean, look at the economic costs, and I'm not just talking about China, but US allies and partners across the Indian Ocean region are about to get slammed. China, I think, has positioned itself a little better on the energy front, but just think of all the second layer effects of, food prices and fertilizer prices and, the cost to small business. To say China's won this, I think, is really quite a deflection to maybe look at the bigger issue of why was this started in the first place, and who's accountable for the economic consequences of it.
The Iran conflict has caused fractures in the NATO alliance.
NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us. And he's explained it to me a lot of times. I got to know him very well. I know him very well. NATO's a paper tiger. NATO is us. And when we needed them, we didn't need them, by the way. We didn't need them, obviously, because they haven't helped at all. Just the opposite. They've actually gone out of their way not to help. They didn't even want to give us landing strips.
This rupture in the America-European alliance has had profound implications, especially for Europe-China relations.
过去的几年欧洲的自主性受到了巨大的冲击，尤其一些国家过度的依赖于美国，使得欧洲失去了自主性。那么北约呢，过去的1年多呢，是受到了巨大的冲击。我觉得这是对的，北约本来就是历史的垃圾，本身就应该被抛弃在历史的垃圾堆中，垃圾箱中，它早就不适合这个世界，所以北约的名存实亡，它帮助了欧洲的开始自主的思考未来的战略的进程。那么欧洲一些领导人呢，重新思考中国的战略价值，加强跟中国的合作，中国乐见其成。
In January, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer went to Beijing. This visit was the first by a British Prime Minister in 8 years, and formed part of a wider effort to strengthen UK-China relations. In February, Beijing hosted German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. In a statement, the Chancellor said Germany must seize growth opportunities despite unfair competition such as Chinese state subsidies and market access restrictions. In April, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez met President Xi. The meeting between the two leaders is their fourth in 4 years. Spain has strongly opposed the US-Israeli war in Iran, which Mr. Sanchez has described as illegal. Europe-China ties seem primed for improvement after several difficult years, but two issues continue to be a thorn in the relationship.
The first is Russia-China relations. It's very strong, no limits partnership, as Xi Jinping set out some years ago, and the economic relationship only continues to deepen. So there are, of course, concerns, particularly in Eastern Europe, in Germany, in France, around the strength of that Moscow-Beijing relationship. The other thorn, and I think this one is one that will grow bigger and perhaps more painful, is the economic relationship. And until quite recently, Europe-China relations were very complementary. China was growing by investing and building, and to do that it needed high-end European capital equipment. Now that relationship has shifted from friendly to competitive. China is producing these high-end equipment, these automotives, advanced manufactured goods, and that relationship is now increasingly difficult. And Germany, for once, is starting to suffer something of a second China shock. It's not quite as acute yet for Germany. You still see quite a few BMWs and Audis in China, but that pain threshold is ratcheting higher, and I think Europe will have to face the reality of a China that is significantly more competitive than them in a number of core European industries.
It has been widely reported that Germany was losing about 10,000 manufacturing jobs a month.
相比于未来人类应对气候变化这种碳中和的进程，就目前而言，再多的清洁能源的使用都还不够呢，是这个供给不足不是供给过剩所以我觉得这是基本的一个概念这些所谓炮制中国绿色技术、绿色能源产能过剩那些声音他们都没搞明白。但是这些声音它的立足点，所谓的过剩，是说中国技术的过剩、中国产能的过剩，是相比于他们国家生产不出来那么多技术而言的，是对于他们的市场并没有使用他们本国的技术而言，那么使得他们自己本国因为这些产品的进入而感到了危机和某种层面的威胁感。那么这个时候采取的方式不是去构陷和污蔑、抹黑中国的清洁能源产品，而是应该向内求，问本国怎么样能够推进更好的创新和研发。
All across the world, as oil prices spike and economic contraction bites, governments are having to think hard about their energy sources and also draw up new plans for the future. In the near term, many countries, including China, are turning back to coal as part of their energy mix. In the longer term, the energy crisis has re-energized calls for clean energy. China produces roughly 80% of the world's solar panels and dominates wind turbine and lithium battery manufacturing. Its EVs now lead sales in the market globally. And through its Belt and Road Initiative, it has built hydroelectric dams in countries across Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
People want cheap energy, want to be clean and also secure and controlled in their hands, and green energy fulfills all of those factors. China, as by far the leading producer of clean tech, both times in volume and in price competitiveness, is standing to gain, I think, quite substantially from this. I expect a big pickup in investment in these areas, both in developed markets and emerging economies.
In 2025, China's total foreign trade surpassed $6.3 trillion, yielding a record-breaking trade surplus of nearly $1.2 trillion. This export boom was driven in large part by green and high-tech industries. According to China's State Council, exports of EVs, lithium batteries, and solar panels rose by 27.1%, while wind turbines skyrocketed by 48.7% last year. Alongside those trade figures is another number that surprised analysts across the world. China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI projects, reached a record $213.5 billion in value last year. BRI investments had peaked in 2016, a decade ago, with many thinking that the BRI initiative was starting to taper off. But China's flagship project is back, bigger and more ambitious than before. With many clean energy projects added across the globe, boosting its clean tech exports.
It's now less about infrastructure and more about manufacturing, whereas with infrastructure it's quite often top-down, government-to-government relations. This time around, it's the corporates that are looking for profit that are taking the lead in these activities. Solar panels and factories in Vietnam and Malaysia, BYD and EV companies, basically everywhere, Brazil, Eastern Europe, Morocco. It runs the gamut of the global economy, primarily in relatively low-cost manufacturing areas, but even in parts of Germany, we're seeing Chinese companies come in and take over disused auto production plants there as well. So it's quite a significant shift to the previous Belt and Road model, where it was infrastructure top-down, less of a profit concern. This time around, it's the corporates driving it, looking for profits.
China is also exporting its nuclear reactors. According to Chinese media, their flagship model, the Hualong 1, is currently the most widely adopted reactor design globally. China has 41 of them, either operating or under construction, each with the capability of supplying enough electricity for 1 million people. Countries like Pakistan and Argentina have already signed on. Limited fiscal capacity after the COVID pandemic has made many countries wary of taking on such a large, debt-heavy project. This could soon change. In November 2025, Chinese companies made their sales pitches at the World Nuclear Exhibition in Paris. Participants from over 80 countries attended. The Chinese pavilion was the second largest after France's. The pitch? That Chinese reactors are cheaper than alternatives from France, the US, or Japan. They can be paid for in local currencies and built much faster. For countries currently facing an energy crisis, that pitch may now appear more attractive. China's clean energy exports might be surging, but other exports are coming under stress.
The shock in energy and transportation costs from the Iran war weighing on global demand for Chinese exports. A growth in outbound shipments skidded 2.5% on year. That's a 5-month low, sharply down from a double-digit gain the first 2 months.
The big headwind facing the China economy is a lack of domestic demand. That's mainly on the consumption side, and there are a number of factors playing into that. The household has been relentlessly hit by COVID, property, the internet crackdown, tariffs and higher oil prices, which hit the consumer as well, will not help that recovery. Where the real damage comes from is the potential damage to exports. Exports, the key growth driver the past couple of years, really extraordinary gains in trade. And if the rest of the world is suffering, the scope for China to continue to export its way to growth is limited. So that, for me, that is the real crux of the Iran conflict and the potential backlash onto China.